Hello and welcome to Ryerson FCS support videos. This edition, Exam Preparation. So first of all, here are some things to consider before the exam. Organize your notes and readings. It's very important that you integrate fully all your lectured notes and required readings so that you can have a broad understanding of course concepts. It's important also to keep in mind that professors tend to include more recent information on their final exams. This means that you have to know whether the exam picks up where the midterm left off. Another technique is to create a mini exam or questionnaire to test your knowledge. You can compile this using your notes and readings. After you write it out, take a break and then answer the questions to check for accuracy. Use the textbook study guide. If your textbook comes with a study guide, or if your teacher has provided you with practice questions or old exams, use these to practice. This can be done rather than writing out your own mini exam, although not every textbook is going to include a study guide. Space out your study time. You learn the most at the beginning and at the end of your study sessions, so if you study for 2 4-hour blocks, this is actually more productive than one long 8-hour session. Inevitably, you'll get tired and start drifting off in the middle, which means that you won't retain as much of this information. Learn from your past exams. If you had a midterm, analyze what you might not have done very well and make that your focus for studying for the final exam. The best way of doing this is to go visit your TA or professor during their office hours to discuss your results and strategies to use for the final exam. Plan and manage your time wisely. That means make sure that you bring a watch because often exam rooms don't have a clock. Each question on a multiple choice exam typically takes 1 to 2 minutes to answer, depending on how long the question is and whether it requires any rough work, whereas short answer questions usually take 15 to 30 minutes each to answer. And lastly, essay questions take the longest to answer at approximately 1 hour. Skip questions that are too difficult and come back to them later. If you find yourself spending a lot of time on one question, skip it and save it until you have finished the others so as not to lose marks on the questions that you do know in case you run out of time. Don't worry about finishing early or late. People write tests and exams at different paces, and comparing yourself to others during the exam only causes anxiety. Stay focused on putting all your effort into the exam, even if you are one of the last ones. And remember, your professors are not trying to trick you, while the majority aren't. If you think it's a trick question, you're probably reading too much into it. Professors are more interested in testing you to see if you understand the material than in trying to catch you off guard. Here are some tips on multiple choice questions, which often make up the bulk of exams. Watch out for words like always or never. Especially in social sciences and humanities, things are rarely always or never true. When you read a question, try covering up the options and answering it without the choices. Usually, your answer will match one of these choices, and then you will have a confirmed correct choice. Process of elimination can also be of use. If you're not immediately sure of the answer, you can mark off the choice as being a possibility or not. This way you will slowly narrow down the possibilities. Often your first instinct is correct, but don't be afraid to change your answer if you have reason to think that the first instinct was not correct. For example, often information in the wording of a later question can help you answer a previous question. Do not change your answers just because you detect a pattern. 5 C's in a row, for example, does not necessarily mean that one is wrong. Essay questions. A big chance for big marks. Create an outline for your essay question. Do this before the exam if you've been given the topic, or do it at the beginning of the exam if you haven't been. By the time you start writing the essay, you should have already written down and organized all of your content. Remember that professors usually grade things like grammar and spelling less strictly on an in-class essay or essay exam than they do on an essay that you have a few weeks to write at home. You should be thinking more about your content. This is something that a lot of students have difficulty with because they are hung up on the structure of essay writing. But if you have an outline prepared, or if you take time to prepare one, the content writing will come much more easily. True or false questions. Again, you should watch out for words like always or never. Is the statement really true or false in every single case? The statement is only true if the entire statement is true. You should be looking for inconsistencies in the wording of the question that can provide clues as to the answer. Try not to quickly read the statement and just assume that it is true. Look for those words that stand out and could change the entire statement. Short answer questions. Try not to leave blank spaces here. If you're not sure about an answer, make an educated guess, because usually short answer questions are an opportunity for partial grades. You should also make sure that you answer every section of the question, as some have many parts. Usually they will be things that your professor has emphasized or spent a lot of time in lectures, giving you a broad knowledge base from which to answer the question. And lastly, before you leave home on the day of the exam, make sure you run down your checklist. Do you have pens? You'll need these to answer essay and short answer questions. Do you have a highlighter? You may need this to note important information in the exam outline or questions. Do you have pencils? You will definitely need these in case you're writing a Scantron exam, and it never hurts to have more than one. Do you have a calculator in case you're required to figure out equations or statistics? Do you have a water bottle? If you do, you won't have to leave the exam room, eating up your time, and often having a drink of water will help you refocus your attention. Did you bring your glasses? Because you never know when the professor is going to make note of something on the board. Remember, bring a watch because there's no guarantee that there will be a wall clock and you are not allowed to use your smartphones during exams. And most importantly, bring your student card. Without it, you'll need to provide other forms of ID to write the exam, and this will also eat up your time. Good luck and get studying!